बहुत
I
सारे लोग ना वेटिंग है, वेटिंग मीनू, लेट देम
ले
इन.
रहे ले रहे हैं.
Yes,
हाँ.
yes.
Get them in.
Good
Get them
evening,
in.
Dr. Shweta.
Minimum, now you
Yeah.
can start the meeting, ma'am.
Yes, start.
A lovely good evening to everybody. We are again here, the second CME of the Green IVF Group. We have called on a very, very new novel topic. IFS makes the initiative.
तो कम कर दो जी मैं सीओ से ज्वेलरी करता हूँ त्रिलंगा में तू शायद ही भरा है ना भाई.
Can you please mute the others, Rahul?
Done, ma'am.
I think it is Geeta Khanna.
Okay.
Yeah,
Chalo,
so
Meenu, please start.
IFS has taken the initiative to talk about sustainability in ART practice in India. Can't seem to move my slides. Something is the matter. Anyways, so we had our first meeting when we had it on the 29th of January. It was, the topic was all about ideation. It was to bring in the ideas on the various aspects of sustainability. We had 9 speakers and they did a wonderful job of enlightening us. And then we gave ourselves another 1 month. Our teams, they kind of, had grouped together, they've had their meetings, they've brainstormed. And now this particular CME, we are looking forward to them giving us real practical concrete ideas as to how we will carry it out. How our 9 teams today are going to enlighten us is the main story about our second webinar CME. And I would like to call upon Dr. Shweta Mittal, ma'am, Secretary General of IFS, to please give share a few words with us, and let's get started, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. So we all gather again. A great initiative, which was the thought process. I remember that Dr. Pankaj sir told me at Fertivision 2024 at Ahmedabad that this year our theme is going to be green IVF, even before that, and sustainable IVF. And then he came up with this brilliant idea that number one, we need to know what it is, because so much has been discussed and known in the clinical part. So much is happening at the embryology part, but this is a different, I think, thought process, a lateral thinking, which needs to be thought of. Like even in schools, children are taught how to reduce, to reuse, and how to recycle. And in a similar fashion, I think we as all the individuals of India will have to do that in IVF. So the first program, the benchmark, and Dr. Meenu has been really working very hard, was knowing about it. So we were all exploring and finding out, reading, and then trying to see what we are already doing. And there's so much more which we can do. And today will be one step forward, where we are going to learn that how clinically to implement these things. And we are really looking forward to these. And hopefully we'll be able to make a document at the end of all this exercise. And maybe we'll be able to practice it in our life always, as always. So with this, I am looking forward to this program and a great success. Over to you, Dr. Meenu, and then you can call Dr. Pankaj sir.
Now I would like to call upon President Sir, Dr. Colonel Professor Pankaj Talwar sir, who is going to enlighten us with his words of wisdom. So please, sir.
So thank you, Meenu. I hope I'm audible to everyone. It's a great day for me and Shweta both, because we thought we'll do something different this year. Besides having regular clinical meetings. So we thought about green IVF, both of us. So this program started around in 7 months back, 6 months back, but now today is gonna reach the idea of execution. Initially, we thought how we'll do it. Now we are reaching execution. I just share with you our dream project. It has got 9 groups. Because you can see on the screen, we've got 9 different groups which cover different aspects of adding green to the whole concept of IVF, not only IVF, but also to IUI and the whole clinical practice. Starting from understanding green to going to have novel ideas and achieving net zero by 2045. Some on the lines of the Paris Treaty, which was done for environment. We're covering different aspects of it, and for that we have a big team. We're very fortunate that we have with us Dr. Sonia Malik ma'am, who's our mentor and guiding us at every step. Thank you so much, Dr. Shweta and Meenu, for being with me. It wasn't an easy job for all of us. We had this first program, which was again brilliantly executed by Dr. Meenu on 29th of January. And here we find that what we took 9 speakers, and then we had a welcome address and blessings of Dr. Sonia Malik. This is a topic which we covered, and they were about ideation. That time we were thinking how this idea will work out. And gradually now we have evolved to better concepts, and now we're talking about execution. As you can see here, we have got 9 team leaders on the screen. We have with us, we that day we had Dr. Ritu, Dr. Bharti, Dr. Shalini, Sarapri, Bindu, Anchal, Yogesh, and Yuvraj speak about these topics. And now today we are shifting to the part 2. The part 2 before we start executing it on the ground. And today we're going to have an overall view of the event. And we are talking about the true sustainability of this whole program. And today again, we have got very learned speakers. We have with us Dr. Vidu, Dr. Manisha, Dr. Lavleen, Dr. Pooja, Rajvi, Meenu, Sangeeta Sharma, Shilpa, and Dr. Nehana. So we all are here today. So thank you so much for being with us. And with this, I think I will just give you some flavor of what we are going into. After this, we'll be enrolling 5 centers. 5 IVF centers in the country, and they'll be done by volunteering. We want people to volunteer with their centers who want to apply, execute these ideas there. So we want to have actual execution in the 5 units of the country. And then we calculate how much is the carbon imprinting or carbon load has been reducing in their centers over 1 year of period. Then we want to bring out a white paper. And the white paper will be brought out by the team itself, and I think we'll be releasing the white paper in the month of August during the midterm meeting. These are 2 new things we want to do, and with this, I think I'll hand over the mic back to you, Meenu. I won't take much of time, but for all the speakers, time given is 8 + 2 minutes, so that we have to move in quickly, and we ensure that we don't have any overlap of our thought process. So thank you so much, and I'll stop sharing, and the stage is all yours, Dr. Meenu. Dr. Sonia Malik, madam, has joined. So Meenu, you can introduce madam and talk to ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for joining.
As Dr. Sonia ma'am has joined us, ma'am, please enlighten us with a few words of wisdom.
Thank you very much once again for having me, making me a part of this group, a very unique kind of a group where, we are thinking of the future rather than what we are doing today. And we know there are obstacles. We know we are going to encounter different kinds of problems as we go ahead and try and initiate this kind of a initiative. But then that is what our leader, Colonel Pankaj Talwar, is all about. He is very happy to take up projects which are challenging. And I'm sure with that, we'll all be able to manage what he has told us. He has actually given us the blueprint that we are going to have about 5 centers voluntarily, which are going to actually execute this and then go ahead. So I think we are moving in the right direction, and with all of you who are so committed, and I see the topics here today, they are very unique and very unusual. And if I have all of you girls talking about, and maybe boys, yes, also talking about these the new kind of topics, and what it entails, it means a lot for IFS. It means a lot for all of us as a group, because these are things which are absolutely new, which we don't know anything about and which we are venturing into. So it's a brilliant exercise, and I think it will make us all very, very, I would say, committed individuals to take up challenges in future as well. Maybe when Shweta becomes the president, for instance, or Ritu becomes the president of the society, I can see a great future for IFS. So having said that, let me just tell you my experience of Sikkim. I've just returned from Sikkim. We were invited by the government of Sikkim, Dr. Neena Malhotra, our incoming president, and me, we were invited. And it was extremely, of course, Dr. Pankaj knows about it because he's been going to Manipal Sikkim Hospital. But for me, it was a very new experience. And there they are, for the last 10 years, they are doing organic farming. They don't produce anything with fertilizers and pesticides in that state. And as soon as you enter the state, the police checks your car for any plastic bottles of water. So they are so particular, the driver told us to throw away the bottles which were full of water because it was in plastic bottles, and they don't allow that. So that is how they are reducing their, emissions, as we would say, and taking care of the future generations also. So the guide told us that although our grains fall short of for us because now we are many more people, and that organic farming is not enough for all of us. We do have to get grains from other states, but still the government is, sort of increasing the sort of produce so that we don't have to suffer from this. So maybe Dr. Talwar, maybe you could talk to the Sikkim government, or maybe you could talk to Manipal Sikkim to start a project like this over there, where you won't be faced by any such thing. They just announced starting their first IVF center in the capital of Sikkim, in one of the government hospitals. So maybe if you float this idea to them, they may take it up, because this is something which is in sync with what they are doing already. They are already doing this kind of a thing. They are proposing it. So therefore, I would suggest that, we as IFS should approach them and maybe float this idea to them that we are in the process of, initiating green IVF labs. So why shouldn't we start from Sikkim? So thank you very much, all of you, for having me here again. I'm with you all. Please continue. Thank you, Meenu. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
ma'am. Thank you.
Talwar. Thank you.
Meenu,
So
release
now
now.
that we
I'm
have-
sharing.
Sir?
Release of the bulletin by Madam and Dr. Ritu. Are you there, Dr. Meenu?
Ritu is asking to unmute her. Ritu is muted. Please unmute her. Yeah.
Ritu, all yours
Rahul,
now.
please
You
Yes.
and
unmute.
Madam, I think
Thank you
here
so
you are.
much, sir. And we are into a new vision, and we are going to release a news bulletin by our team, and that's Understanding Green Sustainable IVF and Zero Net Norms. And we have our president who always gives us and carries on, helps us to carry on the vision. And he says, when we heal the earth, we heal ourselves, enhance fertility with the Green Initiative. We have our secretary, Dr. Shweta Mittal, in this news bulletin telling us about the future, which can be green and fertile, and not at all the choice is all ours. Dr. Sonia Malik, Madam, our mentor, has emphasized green revolution by white coat leading from despair to hope. And that's our next vision now. And we have our team. We have a dynamic team with us, with Dr. Vidhu, Dr. Lakshmi, Dr. Ashwin Rao, and Dr. Mitali, who have really worked hard. Vidhu and Ashwin worked hard for this bulletin to be done. And we also emphasize that we are going on advancing to the field of IVF, but it is at the cost of losing sustainability in terms of environmental impact as well as equitable access to the healthcare. And we all need to create lots and lots of awareness about this. And we emphasized in this bulletin that optimizing all the clinical efficiencies for a sustainable IVF, we need to focus and minimize resource-intensive interventions, yet we need to maintain our maximum success. And that could be possible by some of the strategies highlighted by, like mild ovarian stimulations or elective embryo transfer or an AI-guided embryo selection and a frozen embryo transfer also. The second thing emphasized in this bulletin was to understand the need to reduce the laboratory waste and the energy consumption. So came the concept of the green IVF. Now, this combines sustainability into infrastructure, and we aim all of us to optimize or minimize the energy uses and the medical waste, but at the same time, which should ensure a high quality of patient care. And we cannot forget all the ethical and social considerations, because ethical and social are the pivotal in pursuit of sustainability in vitro practices. So we've emphasized everything on this, and also educating patients and healthcare providers. And that's a crux because from patient selection to the clinical training program, all needs to be taken care of. So putting all together, integrating these strategies, the future of IVF, be both ethically sound and environmentally sustainable, ensuring that equitable access to fertility treatments while we keep preserving resources for generations to come. And we all need to understand, and this is to create awareness among all of us and subsequently to our patients and healthcare workers. So thank you, Sonia Madam, for being our mentor. Thank you, Pankaj Talwar sir, Dr. Shweta, and giving us this opportunity, and my team has worked hard to bring out this bulletin. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ritu and Meenu and Sonia ma'am.
Thank
So
you
as
so much.
we get to the clinical part, we like to invite all of you for our Fertivision. That's in the month of December this year. It's been done at Leela Ambience between 12th and 14th of December. So we like to invite all of you to join us for this mega event. With this, I'll stop talking and send back the mic back to you, Dr. Meenu. Over to you now.
Thank you, sir. Now that we have the blessings of our seniors, we start with the program. The bulletin has been released. So for the first talk of the day, I will call Dr. Vidhu, and she is going to talk on the practical execution of green sustainable IVF and global net zero norms. So Dr. Vidhu Modgil.
Thank you, Dr. Sonia Malik, Dr. Talwar, Dr. Shweta, and Dr. Ritu for giving me this chance to, learn about this, which is an absolutely new topic, which I've never read. But yes, reading through this, you have insight into what we are doing to the nature. And then the fallback is all on us and our patients too. So I'll just start my... So am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thanks. So my topic was practical execution of green sustainable IVF. We are all working towards our to have net zero for our Earth, and why we should look for sustainable IVF. The key challenges in IVF are it has high medical waste and energy consumption. The cost is very high. Procedures are limiting access. There are ethical dilemmas surrounding embryo disposals. An objective of sustainable IVF is to reduce carbon footprints, make IVF affordable and accessible, and ensure ethical and environmental responsibility. There are 4 pillars of sustainable IVF, which we think. First is to optimize our clinical protocols, reducing medication use and resource consumption. Second, it should be eco-friendly laboratory practices, which is cutting down the energy and medical waste. And third is ethical equitable IVF, SS. And fourth, education and technological innovations, AI, automation, and awareness. So let's look at the problem of giving high gonadotropins, which increase cost and risk of ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. The solution can be we can lower the doses of stimulation drugs, reduce medical waste and costs. The evidence maintains success rate while lowering the side effects. And in practice, we reduce the waste, cost, and the patient burden. So these are various means which we can put in our practice to have more sustainable and green IVF. Then, as we've already learned, that we should have elective single embryo transfer, which is safer and ethical also. The problem of multi-fetal pregnancy, it is high risk, maternal morbidity, premature birth, stillbirth, cesarean sections. And the solution is obviously, we ensure that the single embryo transfers ensure safer pregnancy, maintaining cumulative live birth rates, reduce maternal and fetal complications, and impact is ethical, cost-effective, and reduces medical resource consumption. So then AI-guided embryo selection is also an important part. The AI is a very new technology which we should all know about. Just a moment. The manual embryo selection is very inefficient, and the solution is AI analyzes embryo viability more accurately, automates embryo scoring, reduces inter and intra-observer bias, reduces failed cycles and the emotional financial burden on the patient, and impact is on the higher success rate, fewer IVF cycles, and reduced lab resources also. So whatever challenges we are facing, we are just now trying to find out the solutions and how it impacts to reduce our carbon footprints. Frozen embryo transfer over fresh embryo transfer requires continuous hormonal support and repeated cycles. Solution is frozen embryo transfers allows personalized endometrial preparations, higher safety and implantation success rate, and fewer medication cycles. And impact on us on the environment reduces hormonal drug waste, repetition, and enhances patients' convenience. So how can we reduce our laboratory waste? IVF lab consume 100 times more energy than standard medical labs. And solution is we can use renewable energies, which cuts emissions by 40%. Eco-friendly culture media, cryopreservation chemicals, and biodegradable lab materials. Efficient cryostorage techniques and low volume vitrification procedures to optimize nitrogen use. And impact is which with all these methods, we lower the carbon footprint and sustainable resource use. Unequal access due to high cost and the limitations are challenge faced by LGBTQ plus individuals in IVF treatments, ethical concerns over embryo donation and unused embryo disposition. The government subsidies and insurance inclusions, inclusive policies ensuring equitable care, impact is fair and ethical reproductive healthcare system. So the important is still we need to learn educating our patients and healthcare providers. Lack of fertility literacy is around. We do not plan our family decisions. And then what is the solution? Solution is patients awareness programs on infertility and prevention, training for clinicians on sustainability and ethical care, global efforts by WHO, ASRM, and ESHRE promoting sustainable IVF. Impact is long-term reduction in fertility rates and improved accessibility. So environmental degradation, as what we do, by the human activity, it impacts the reproductive health and fertility, which also impacts the fetal health also. So all these things, if we keep in mind, we can improve our health. So roadmap to sustainable future in IVF is green IVF is the future, balance technology, ethics, and environmental sustainability, implement practical evidence-based strategies. Policy support is crucial for equitable IVF access. Call of action is adoption to eco-friendly lab practices, AI-driven efficiencies, global collaboration for affordable and ethical IVF. And what are the recommendations? Bring awareness and education to the lab about the environmental impact of the lab work. Aim for enduring behavior and mindset changes. Form a green team to explore ways in which lab carbon footprints can be reduced. Engage all members of the lab and organization towards sustainability efforts and participate in green certification program to achieve these goals. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vidhu. You have actually clocked just about 6.5 minutes and very precise. I think just very, very to the point, the way you kind of,
Actually, there's so much, too much to learn, but I think so. These were the very points which I really wanted to highlight and how we can do.
And as you're the first group. So let's go on to the second talk of the day, which is going to be delivered by Dr. Manisha Vajpayee, and very, very important topic here because a lot of it will revolve around designing. So how to implement the designing of sustainable green ART clinics.
Dr. Meenu, a few in the chat box. Some queries in the chat box, she can take it now, but she may leave later. The chat box, there are few queries. She can take it now since we have time.
Sure. There can be possible challenges using AI in embryology and embryology. Please answer elaborately is the question.
Technique. which we all need to learn as
So Dr.
embryologists.
Vidhu or maybe sir or any one of the seniors.
Yeah.
So would you like to say something about it, sir, or shall we move on to Dr. Manisha's topic?
I think Vidhu has to take on this query. This for her.
So
So
I
what
said
can be the
AI is a new, very new technology which we were all dabbling into. So that's what I could see from the what I've read, that you can select the embryos, and but you need to upgrade yourself into AI first before you can start learning it in your lab. So first is how to learn about it, and then how to implement it. Like all we started IVF, we first learned, and now we are implementing it in the right way. That's what I know. Rest I need to just check on how it.
Yeah, so if you permit me, I'll take this query here. So
Yeah,
it's about scope 2 and scope 3 emissions. So what happens, Arijit, is that once we get the AI enablement done, so once AI is enabled, we got better quality of incubators. We already got time-lapse incubators are available with us. We got better lab inventory management. We got better lab gamete and cryobiology management. So what happens is that the labs can be managed remotely. Because you look at the AI-enabled chips where everything happens without even touching the gametes, and they go till day 5 and they get vitrified by themselves. So the right answer here will be that as we are moving towards AI, which has to come, if not now, after a few weeks or few months or few years, the carbon footprinting will become much less because people won't be traveling. The lab will be working more remotely and giving a better outcome also. So reducing the scope 2 and scope 3 emissions, even scope 1 emissions before, because we'll consume less amount of energy. So we won't be having a very hyperactive laboratory functioning all the time. So I think this future is going to happen. It'll add to around, I think, 4 to 5% reduction in our carbon footprint, this particular activity. This is my estimate. So I think that's the answer from my end. In case anyone wants to say something, you can always.
That's what the literature also says, that it reduces the carbon footprint by using AI in our day-to-day practice.
Correct. People won't travel. People won't travel. They won't come to the laboratories, and everything will be done on probably an iPad and iPad-enabled incubator. So I think that's a good choice which people can take on in some time. So I think that's okay, Meenu. And thanks a lot, Dr. Vidhu. And I hope we have answered Arijit's questions. We move back to you, Meenu, again.
So Dr. Manisha will take a little bit more time because this is an elaborate one. So please get started, Dr. Manisha.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Meenu, for giving me some elaborated time. Because since we are talking about the laboratory designing and
You could make it full screen, Dr. Manisha.
yeah, just a minute. In that, yes.
The icon down
Yeah,
below to make.
now you can see. So, respected seniors and dear friends, it's a privilege to be part of this innovative group, and I'm actually enjoying this a lot. I really need to minimize my view. So now today I'll be talking about how to implement the designing of sustainable ART clinic. As evident by our Secretary Madam's talk, that sustainability is going to be our future, and these are 5 Rs which we need to implement. So I am not dwelling into much details of these. I'm not able to move. And why does a green IVF matters? Dr. Vidhu has explained all these things very elaborately, so I'm omitting this as well. So while designing or constructing or implementing green IVF norms into IVF laboratory, I was searching for some, if there are some guidelines. So there are Indian and international guidelines available about the construction of a green eco-friendly building. And these guidelines like LEEDS, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, a globally recognized certification program. It is implying in healthcare system as well. Another international guideline I have taken into consideration is American Society for HVAC System Engineers, because we are using HVAC system quite a lot. They are taking 60 to 70% of our energy consumption. So these guidelines were very helpful. And there are some Indian guidelines, like Indian Green Building Council is there, which rates the green building systems on the basis of site selection, water conservation, energy efficiency, and air quality. And GRIHA guidelines are also there, which is green rating for integrated habitat assessment. So on the basis of these guidelines, since it is an elaborated discussion, so I'll be touching upon to the main points. On the basis of these guidelines, what we keep in mind while implementing a green structure into our IVF lab, we have to pay attention towards site selection and planning, about energy optimization, water management, sustainable material use, indoor environmental quality, and waste management in order to get a green sustainable IVF system. So coming to the site selection, as per all these three guidelines, what I could conclude is that we have to take care of environmental considerations. So choosing a location with a minimum environmental impact, with minimum ecological disturbance, such as areas with existing infrastructure, getting a floor in an existing multi-story building will reduce the need for extensive land development and ecology disruption. And accessibility is again a paramount importance. Proximity to public transportation and amenities support sustainable commuting options for staff and lab goods. So it will definitely reduce the carbon footprint. Now coming to the second most part, energy efficiency. All three guidelines vouch about one thing: renewable energy sources and using energy efficient system. Energy optimization is the key. So renewable energy integration depends on, we all know about the solar panel, geothermal ducting system, wind turbine. All these things are there to harness renewable energy, and optimizing building orientation for natural light and ventilation, reducing the need for artificial lighting and cooling, which is called as passive design strategies, are also important. And using energy efficient equipments and systems is again third most important thing. So talking about renewable energy sources, we all know about the solar panels, but geothermal modeling is a new thing, comparatively new thing, which is very, very promising. We all know that 3-4 meters below the earth, there is a stable underground temperature, and using this temperature for cooling or heating our buildings is a very efficient way, and in comparison to conventional HVAC system. And this is called as geothermal optimization of temperature, and it is effectively being used in multiple countries. It is a very efficient and effective system, along with solar panel, which harness renewable energy to power laboratory operation. And it decreased the dependence of non-renewable energy system, saving 50 to 70% reduction on grid energy dependence. And the main constraint with these solar panels was that they are sun energy dependent. So, but our labs, our OTs work 24/7. So in this scenario, the solution is use of solid state sodium batteries as a solar energy reservoir. These solid state, why it is not moving? These solid state batteries represent a significant advancement in energy storage technology, and they offer numerous benefits for off-grid solar projects in India as well. There are many plants. They are functional in our country. Their enhanced safety, higher energy density, longevity, and temperature tolerance make them ideally suited for our climatic condition. Now coming to the passive design strategy. What are they? Passive design strategy utilize natural environmental condition to maintain indoor comfort and to reduce energy consumption. So thermal enveloping of the building, like using high quality material to minimize heat transfer, maintain desired indoor temperature, airtight construction, sealing the gap around the windows, doors, and joint to prevent unwanted air filtration and change of the temperature. And this can be achieved by using simple triple glazed window, which are filled with argon gas, and it will reduce almost 50% of the heat loss, improve insulation, and there will be less strain on HVAC system, and reducing the energy cost. There is one more strategy which is being called as passive solar heating. means use of daylighting. So in Western countries where temperature is comparatively cold, this can be achieved by placing south-facing windows to allow sunlight to warm the interior surface, and using there is a way of indirect gain using thermal mass materials such as concrete or brick walls to absorb the solar energy during the day and release at night. But in Indian climatic conditions, this method is not that efficient because we have very harsh sun during summer months. So implementing shading device like pergolas, louvers, or overhangers to block high angle summer sun and which allow low angle winter sunlight to penetrate. This approach reducing cooling loads during the hot period. Landscaping is another efficient method which is being extensively used in this respect. Use of deciduous trees and shrubs near south facing facades. These plants provide shades during summers, and they shed leaves in winters, permitting sunlight to warm the building naturally. And light shelving is another method. Use of architectural elements that reflect daylight deeper into interior spaces, enhancing illumination without direct sunlight exposure is another efficient way to achieve passive solar heating. Just a minute. Use of natural ventilation, incorporation of central atrium corridors to facilitate cross ventilation, leveraging natural air movement is efficient way to achieve climatic control without using extensive HVAC system. Aligning a structure along north-south axis to minimize direct sunlight, cross ventilation, and stack ventilation. We all know that as air gets hotter, it goes towards upper side. So stack ventilation is again an important phenomenon which can be used in our waiting areas or in our consultation chamber. And another, to optimize the energy efficiency, use of LED lab lighting or in waiting areas. Can you imagine LED lab, a normal lamp use only 10% of its energy consumed for the light emission, rest 90% goes wasted as a heat, whereas a LED bulb use 95% of energy as a light and only 5% is being wasted. So use of such LED lamp, especially at 570 nm sepia tone, can save the heat emission and reduce the power consumption by 40%. And these lights are ideal for microscope, embryology equipment, and lab lighting as well. Replacing LED lamps, replacing halogen lights with LED lamps can give us 70% of the power saving. A smart HVAC system with climate control, with adaptive temperature features can save 30% of the energy. And Internet of the Things based energy monitoring, AI-based energy monitoring, which can track the real-time usages and adjust equipment accordingly, prevent overusages. Motion sensor LED lights are again a good way to prevent energy loss, and automated water and waste management is a very important way to optimize resource uses. I hope I'm not going too fast. And if we talk about laboratory equipment, microscope illumination by LED lights, even we might not be getting laminar flow star graded 5-star equipments are not available in most of the things, but regular maintenance such as cleaning of filters and calibrating the airflow ensures optimal performance and energy efficiency in routine equipments as well. And procuring and trying for energy saving embryology equipment can give us a sustainable lower energy usages. Now coming to the water management, rainwater harvesting system, we all know it is implementation of this system to utilize rainwater for non-potable use can reduce demand of municipal water supplies greatly. Using water efficient fixtures like installing low flow faucets, dual flush toilets. Can you imagine a normal tap consumes almost 8 to 10 liters of water per minute, whereas a low flow faucet use 4 to 6 liter of water per minute. So we can drastically reduce the water consumption by using such fixtures in our setup up to 40%. And wastewater treatment plants are ideal way to recycle and reuse water for landscaping and flushing. modular construction, which is being used in our IVF lab, is a very good way to waste reduction, energy efficiency, and reduce site disturbances as well. And by keeping good ventilation system, ensuring adequate ventilation, ensuring adequate natural lighting, and use of non-toxic material like use of low VOC paints, low VOC adhesive, and low VOC finishes with no VOC content, which is being used in lab. If we start using these things in our whole clinic, they'll provide us the sustainable environment quality as well. Waste management is again a very important part. So segregation and disposal is being implemented in most of the clinic, and implementing strict protocol for segregation of biomedical waste from general waste, ensuring compliance with the local regulation, recycling program, establishing recycling program for paper, plastic, and other recyclable material to reduce landfill burdens, and staff training on waste management protocol to ensure compliances and safety. So to achieve sustainable operation, we have to maintain, we have to implement green and clean practices. We have to do a rigorous monitoring and reporting, and certification, pursuing certification like LEEDs, IGBC, or GRIHA, to validate sustainability effect, and undergoing to regular audits for compliancing is another way. And if we talk about the financial burden which they can occur, implement in our system, financial investment is there. But if we look at the annual saving by use of these things, that is enormous. And if we talk about return on investment, the ROI can be achieved within from 2 years to maximum 6.5 years. So this is something very, very doable. Apart from that, empathy towards our environment, as taught from our ancestors, like the way they start praying earth as a mother earth, and they made it a morning ritual to touch, to seek forgiveness for touching it from their feet. So that level of empathy can change our mindset, and when there is a will, there is a way. So that can generate a willingness amongst population, in general population, and sensitivity about it. This was my New Year greeting of 2025. And today, I really wanted to give a positive message to our fellow colleagues for sustainable development. And today I'm feeling totally privileged being part of this initiative. So I'll thank Dr. Talwar sir, Shweta ma'am, Sonia ma'am, everyone to incorporating me to this team. And thank you everyone for the patient hearing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Manisha. Very, very important points that you brought about on how to. Okay, very nice. Thank you so much. So, sir, would you have anything to add to this, or shall we move ahead to the next topic?
No, nothing from my end. Very well
Or do
done.
we
Thank you
have
so much,
to-
Manisha.
I think we'll take the questions later, and I don't think we have any. So the next topic for the day would be taken by Dr. Loveleen, and the topic is on-ground steps that a clinician must take towards reducing carbon footprint. So I would like to invite Dr. Loveleen Sori ma'am now. Ma'am, are you there? Lovely, ma'am.
Please unmute.
Lovely, ma'am. The stage is yours, ma'am, now. Got time for the third talk.
We'll have to stop unsharing of Dr. Manisha's slides.
Sure.
Yeah, now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Dr.
Yes, we can
Lavanya.
hear you.
Yeah, I was not, I was still muted actually. Just a
Yeah.
minute. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
ma'am, we can. Please
So
make
good
it full
evening,
screen,
everyone.
ma'am.
Sorry?
Make it full screen,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yeah,
That
I'm just
would be
doing that.
better.
So good evening, everyone, and thank you to Dr. Pankaj, Dr. Shweta, and Dr. Meenu for giving me a chance to talk on this subject, which is really close to my heart. So I will be sharing some very simple steps, on-ground steps, which we can all take in our routine practice to reduce carbon footprint and emissions. So sustainability is no longer an option, it is a necessity. And first thing is to build a green team, and you have to lead this team from the front. You have to educate your employees about the approach, and you have to talk about going green. You have to engage people, all stakeholders, including patients, vendors, pharma companies, everyone. So just a simple standee or a poster at your reception which says, this is a green IVF clinic would definitely attract attention and, help you to reach out to people and tell them what it is all about. So we have to reduce the carbon footprint, make ourselves green by reduce, reuse, recycle, the 3 Rs. And all those of our employees and associates who are responding and who are cooperative need definitely to be rewarded. So number one, effective energy consumption. Many of these things have already been covered. Solar panels, we talk about LED light. Dr. Manisha has very nicely told us about that. Then energy rating to buy energy efficient equipments. So turning off computers and monitors, avoiding screensavers, reducing AC and heating in the office, switching off all non-essential equipment when not in use, and of course, regular maintenance and service of equipment. When they function optimally, they take less energy and become more efficient. So all this also helps us to cut costs. In the long run, it saves us money as well. So water conservation, we can never talk about it enough. Rainwater harvesting should be an option in all new buildings, and some retrofitting of the equipments can even be done in old buildings. The AC and RO filter effluent is huge volume, and this can also be used for cleaning, for irrigation purposes, and such like things. The picture here that we see, this is a very common thing. The water is constantly flowing at full speed while the people are scrubbing. So we must dissuade our staff from doing this, and we can have sensors, and especially we can have low flow systems. The water should not be at any time flowing so fast. Then prompt repair of leaky taps, dripping faucets, etc. And those of our staff members who are sensitive to this, who react quickly, should definitely be rewarded. So that is how it makes the process go on. So saving paper definitely saves trees. And for this, we must reduce the consumption of paper and also introduce greener alternatives. We cannot always do away with paper. So increasing digitization is one very good option, and running a paperless clinic is becoming more and more convenient and easy nowadays. And little things like do not insist on printout of lab reports. I know it becomes difficult to see the report on the screen of a mobile phone, but then I guess we can make ourselves, kind of used to it. And reduce the number of clinic visits, the number of times they come for ultrasound, the number of times they come for hormone assessments. A lot of these reports can be discussed on through telemedicine. We can ask our juniors to do it for us, but then we have to think in this direction. So this picture was last time given by Dr. Shweta. So this is not hospital laundry or waste. This is just PNDT records of years, and this kind of thing is piling up in every clinic, every hospital. So there is no logic in filling all these forms.
and especially in multiple numbers, multiple copies. So this is not logical, this is not explainable, justifiable, and definitely not environmental friendly. And we can definitely ask authorities to look into this aspect as well. So recycled paper is the next best alternative. So the new paper comes like this. The recycled paper is not as bright, little brownish in color, but as you can see, even a colored print is very easy to read. And not bleaching this actually saves a lot of water. Like you say, it says 30 liters of water saved by not bleaching. And all those bleaching chemicals are also then not used. Another option is, like, for years, we used to use these kind of tissues in our lab for cleaning. And then we introduced about 2-3 years ago, these microfiber cleaning cloth. They do not release lint, and they can be used for more than 100 times after washing again and again. Bamboo tissue paper is another alternative. The bamboo grows much faster. So in 2 to 3 years, you'll have a bamboo tree full size as compared to 20 to 30 years for another tree. Also, the cultivating bamboos is much easier, requires less irrigation, practically no pesticides. And what I read was that 30% more oxygen also comes from the bamboo plants. We also need to reduce plastic waste. And for that, simple things like files and folders, we should not be using plastic ones. We can very easily use the cardboard files and folders. A big no to bottled water, plastic bottles. This is a very good alternative. You have filtered water coming through your cooler. And even better than using these kind of paper tumblers is to use glass tumblers. So these are little things we can do in our reception areas, in the indoor areas. Then minimizing waste and extending the lifespan of resources. So PPE, cloth caps, cloth shoe covers, cloth gowns, cloth drapes for the patients. And this is what we do. We have these kind of covers for the cables of the probe. And these are made of cotton. They can be washed. They can be autoclaved for sterilization. I believe people do use these kind of plastic speculums in their clinics, pass on the cost to the patient. But I think the kind of waste that this creates, this kind of single-use plastic, is actually criminal. And it is a much more practical thing to do, is to use metal instruments rather than a single-use plastic instruments. Then reusable pens. When we deliver our gonadotrophins, the single-use plastic pen, which can be used for more patients than just one, is a much better option than using these syringes and needles. Unfortunately, these are available as of now only for recombinant FSH. But now that we have other gonadotrophins, urinary, also available in solution form, not only lyophilized, I think asking for these kind of pens for dispensing even the urinary gonadotrophins we should be able to ask the pharma industry to bring this out. Then instead of the pituitary downregulation with the injectables, if we can more and more adopt the progesterone PPOS cycles or oral antagonist, as the evidence is collecting, they are supposed to be good enough. I think as our experience builds up, we should be able to make this change as well. So this is a little video to show how we conserve the consumables in our lab. So as you can see, just 3 or 4 of these Petri dishes and 3 or 4 test tubes is the collecting tube is all that we use for each one of our patients. And it's sad to say that for almost 6 or 8 years before we changed our embryologist, we were not doing this. And we used to use at least double or maybe 3 times the number of consumables than we do now. So just every time the follicular fluid is collected, it is transferred to the same tubes and Petri dishes. So instead of having multiple places for collection of waste in each room where waste is collected, we need not have these kind of plastic bins and polythene bags. If we have a central station where all this can be collected and sorted, except for the sharps, that would also lead to a lot of saving of plastic. Then greener substitutes for thermocol. We can insist that our vendors provide us the injectables, whatever hormones they bring to us, in these kind of coolers, which can be used again and again rather than sending us in thermocols. And we can do the same when giving the injections to our patients also. This is not easily available as of now, but biodegradable coolers made of recycled paper are already available in countries like China. And yes, I would like to urge the pharma companies not to bombard with us with this kind of paper material. We should also keep ourselves open to the idea of being given reminders through the digital media, to our phones or whatever. But this is a huge, huge waste of trees and paper. So when we choose our vendors, when we choose our pharma companies from whom we are buying materials, we can also look into the greenhouse gas emission reduction plans, waste management plans, and we can patronize the companies which are more eco-friendly. Certifications like ISO 14001 for environmental management encourage clinics to adopt best practices in waste reduction, energy management, and water conservation, and should be done by all of us. And last of all, I would say, be the change that you want to see. Make small changes at your own level. Educate and encourage those around you. Create a demand for greener options. If we collectively approach the authorities, put in a demand to the pharma companies, I'm sure they will oblige. Patronize companies and vendors with a smaller carbon footprint. And yes, also locally manufactured products, which helps in the Make in India prerogative, and as well as reduces the carbon footprint due to transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Amazing, very practical points that you've spoken of, something very doable. And I think most of us should try and, you know, take a pledge at a personal level today that we can try it from the very next day, few changes that we can bring about in our lab. Some of them are very, very practical and doable. Thank you so much, ma'am. Anything else that Sir or Shweta ma'am would like to add to the topic, or do we move on to the next, because we have a couple of minutes here again?
So that was
Shweta,
from my group. So I don't have more to put in, because Dr. Loveleen and I just did the brainstorming, and this is what we can come up practically. There are a lot of questions in the chat box I'm going on. So when it comes to embryological aspects, at many fronts, we will not be able to reduce. We are not asking to compromise on the IVF cycles. Neither are we suggesting to overuse the technology like MAX or advanced sperm selection, where very simple process like shorter duration of ejaculation can just help, and just doing sperm selection by ICSI machine where it enlarges. So we will have to buy the technology, I feel, very judiciously. It is not a selling point of our IVF labs. The basic techniques need to be finessed first. If you don't have a good blastulation rate, there's no point using these technologies or giving a green flag like I'm doing PGT. So I think what we are trying to do is building up this grassroots from the grassroots level, taking very small steps and not compromising on the most essential steps. So I think after 3 lectures, this is what I want to put forth after reading the messages in the chat box.
I think you must
absolutely, and
compliment
rather than
Shweta.
thinking of advanced technologies, I
Yeah.
think the little steps, rather going back, what we used to do so many years back is what we have to go back. So
So I think I just want to compliment Shweta and Dr. Loveleen. Brilliant talk. This is rooted talk. So very well done, and keep it up. And I think now we should, Shweta,
Yeah,
at
move
our
on.
end, we both of us now, we should try to execute the thoughts which you have brought it here. That's very, very important. Otherwise, they shouldn't die prematurely. I think all of us should get down together, all of us who are present here, and try to apply it to, like I'm reading Ritu Jain's message, great initiative, small change will make a big difference. So now we have to start applying it to our clinical practice. So thank you so much, Dr. Loveleen. Maza aa gaya.
These are
Good talk.
doable steps, and most of these we've already made changes in our clinic.
Yes,
And
madam. Thank you
something
very
we
much.
need to do collectively.
Absolutely great. Super. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
thank you, ma'am.
Over back to you, Meenu.
Yes, sir. So the next topic would be taken by Dr. Neha Lad, and that is to execute the principles of low-cost IVF, thus making it sustainable. Dr. Neha Lad, please. Rahul, please unmute Dr. Neha. Dr. Neha?
Hello, good evening, and thanks a lot for giving Dr. Talwar sir, Shweta ma'am, and Bharti madam for giving me this opportunity. Actually, my talk is quite in the line with what Dr. Mittal madam said and Dr. Lovelin has presented. We need to go to our basics so that it can become more sustainable. And let's see. I will go for. Our lecture is on how to execute these principles of low cost IVF to make it sustainable. And we have our team members here mentioned. We all know because of the various reasons and factors of the modern world, fertility potential of humans is becoming more and more compromised. More and more couples are needing treatment. In India, in 2020, 2.5 lakhs of cycles were done per year, which is expected to go to 5 to 6 lakhs per year. There are so many couples who are not deserving, couples who are not able to seek this treatment, the joy of parenthood, only because it is self-sponsored and the cost is not affordable to many people. Unfortunately, there is no uniformity in the cost structure, there is no uniformity in the protocols, and because of that, this lack of consistency, there is no insurance company which is giving us a flat insurance. There are no government contributions. So the couple has to make their own management of their money. And so what our duty is that we can make if this IVF with the low cost so that more and more people can afford it. What are the major factors in the IVF which are leading to the cost hike are the repeated visits to the IVF center, laboratory equipments, high-end equipments. We are going to more and more advanced technologies, more and more consumables are to be used. There is the staffing cost, the salaries of the embryologists, lab technicians, energies, and other things which have already been discussed. And one of the important factor is various medications and the hormones, the stimulation drugs and injections which have been required. So what are the suggested strategies which can reduce the IVF cost? First of all, as has been already discussed, we can use of more and more of telemedicine and e-visits where the clinical visits can be reduced. The operative interventions can be reduced with the use of 2D and 3D scans. The hysteroscopy can be limited only for the operative interventions. Instead of doing a AMH, can we depend more on a AFC count? That also can be seen. The manual semen analysis should be given a due weightage as compared to the automated techniques. And the role of advanced sperm function test has to be evaluated. Also, what is happening? So in optimizing ovarian stimulation, as we know, we have the options of natural cycle IVF, mild ovarian stimulation protocols, clomiphene citrate in IVF, letrozole in IVF, and this is that comparative chart which compares various protocols and what are the its outcome, because one of the very important factor is we should not compromise the outcome. If we get a good blastulation, if we get a good success rate, that itself is going to reduce the cost of our IVF. So out of all this, again, the antagonist protocol gives us a good balance of both the things. And natural cycle IVF, if at all, if we get the good quality of oocyte, again, it is a good alternative. There are laboratory equipments. The day by day, the equipments are getting advanced. They are getting more computerized, AI based, but which is increasing the cost of the our treatment. So we can think about little more out of box thinking, something like InVos cells, which are the concept is very beautiful, where you can keep it into the maternal vagina and eliminate the total need of ART laboratory. It was used in Canada with the success rate of almost 19% per cycle. IVF incubator, something like glass desiccators, which can be also used. We have to think about a single incubator, benchtop incubators versus the traditional multi-use incubator with its cost and with their benefits and risk factors, we have to evaluate that. We can reduce the cost of the consumables by bulk purchasing, buy the media, pipettes and disposable in the bulk. You can reuse certain things as was told by Dr. Loveleen, where you can use the probe covers with the linen material. You can use those test tubes without compromising the outcome and taking care of that. The infection should not be incurred. You can think about various, you can have a ETO sterilization with your clinic, and where certain things, catheters, at least certain catheters you can reuse, IUA cannulas you can reuse after doing the ETO sterilization. There can be certain best practices which can be used for the laboratory, like something like a small versus big petri dishes, minimal but optimum use of culture media, single step versus sequential media, micro versus macro droplets, day 3 versus day 5 embryo transfers, IVF versus ICSI, freeze-all versus selective freezing in the patients, something like a batch embryo freezing, thawing, and banking for the multiple cycles. Optimization of lab workflow and human resources is very important. We should evaluate critically the newer technologies like IMSI, PICSI, labor-assisted hatching, EmbryoScope, PGD, PGS, embryo glue, and microfluidics. The efficient use of culture media can be done by using a minimal but optimal, like using the micro droplets, selecting the multipurpose media, so reduce the need for the multiple solution, use of solution. You can store the lab consumables efficiently to prevent the use. So even your staff should be trained that how all the things can be used very conservatively and avoiding the wastage of the material. We can again evaluate the IVF versus ICSI, the role of that. In case of a batch embryo freezing and thawing, I really don't have a personal experience because we are doing on the day-to-day basis. But what I feel in an embryo freezing, certain things can be done is we can have, while the embryo transfer, we instead of going for the HRT for all the patients, if we can use the natural cycle frozen embryo transfer, modified natural cycle, ovulation induction with the OI, the results are excellent. And what I found the advantage of it is there the support, luteal phase support, which is need to be given, is very less. Also, the complications like PIH, the complication like low birth weight babies, placenta accretas, the risk of PPH, all these complications are reduced when we are going for either a natural cycle modified or with the ovulation induction. The next topic is the education of the clinician for the right choice of the treatment protocols. This was one of the prescription which I found where the 22 medications were prescribed to the patient. All the types of progesterone available on the earth were given for the same patient. So I think these are the certain things where we can significantly reduce the cost. All the medications were given for 25 days after the embryo transfer, which I think was little difficult to understand. And you can reduce the if we are doing the embryo transfer with the help of ovulation induction, I think we can minimize our prescription to a significant extent, which will reduce the cost of the patient. So with all these things, one of the very important factor we'll have to remember when we are saving this cost, we should able to pass this cost to the person, this benefit to the patient, so that the actual cost of the therapy will reduce. So in summary, the concept of affordable ART was developed in attempt to reduce to make the services available at the reasonable cost. Low cost should not in any way imply a compromise in the quality. Use of minimal stimulation protocols and emphasis on the clinical judgment is very important than depending more only on the investigations. A well thought of laboratory protocols would help in limiting the cost without compromising the quality. An optimally functioning laboratory is a prerequisite to ensure the good results. So, in conclusion, I think this concept is possible if we can think and we can do our research in a more of a basic inventions. We will able to give the IVF in a little affordable cost to many of the patient, and our patient can get their joy of parenthood very easily. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Neha. crisp presentation, and again, you kind of substantiate or give support to the idea of the previous speaker, and also, of course, talking of our prescriptions being more shorter, more precise, and not an overload of drugs. Thank you so much for your insight on that. And since we do have time, again, I would request the seniors to give their input they would like to at this point.
Dr. Rajvi ko unmute kar do, please. Dr. Rajvi wants to speak something. Dr. Rajvi Mehta, she wants to speak.
Dr. Loveleen. Rahul, please, can you unmute?
Rahul, please unmute Dr. Bharti and Dr. Rajvi both, please.
No, I didn't want to. I was the next speaker, so I was just preparing myself.
Okay. Dr. Bharti wants to say something. Dr. Bharti, ma'am, we can't see you, but I could read your message. Dr.
Hello,
Bharti
yes.
Dhule. Yes, madam. Welcome,
I
ma'am.
can't even, my video is not, yeah, okay, now. See, this was Neha and we, from our group, we presented this. But truly speaking, I would like to have the suggestions from all the people, all members. See what happens, low cost means everybody, green IVF means almost it is like a low cost. So what do you think, like Dr. Pankaj, what you have in your mind? Is it that injections cost should be low? See, because once you have the green IVF, the cost of the infrastructure, cost of things are going to increase. So how low cost IVF would be in the green IVF?
Ma'am, why do you say the cost will increase?
Increase, exactly.
Hello?
Dr. Bharti, green IVF has got multiple components, and we could get 9 components on board. So we have made 9 groups. One of the groups talks about having a more affordable, or we don't call it a cheap IVF. We say we should be having an economically affordable IVF. So when we talk about green IVF affordability, it is the green IVF doesn't mean that it will become expensive or it will become cheaper. There are two different concepts altogether. But here, when we want to make IVF affordable, I think the very important part is that to make it affordable, we have to start now experimenting. So to make it affordable, I myself remember Dr. Sonia Malik, madam, in case she's here now, she has been talking extensively on having affordable hormones. So our Indian hormones, in case we use, they are much cheaper, number one. So our hormones are much cheap. They come at a difference of around 30-35% cheaper rate as compared to imported hormones. So we can go in for an Indian hormones, number one. Indian plastics, they come at a gap of around 40-45% cheaper as compared to the imported plastics. Same with the culture media we don't have in our country presently. So I think we should all take initiative. That's the aim of Indian Fertility Society, to take an initiative to introduce a topic to you, and we should be trying to buy Indian products. If you buy Indian products, the outcome is also not all that bad, that we have all seen by using Indian gonadotropins, as well as the plastics, which many of the corporate chains are now using only Indian plastics. I understand that the main, Shweta and me, we keep having this discussion how to launch this idea. When you look at an Indian product, it's very clumsy. Opening a pack of an ET catheter or opening a pack of an OPU needle, it's very clumsy. The quality wise, it is not very bad. And I think I'd like to invite Dr. Sarabpreet in case he's here. Sarabpreet, I have seen you saying hello. You can unmute yourself and talk about the embryological aspects of it. I think it's a big call we have to take, all of us together. Clinical call has been taken. All the hormones which we use are coming around 40% cheaper. Lab parameters, we'll have to redesign the infra. Please unmute Dr. Sarabpreet Singh. And I think we'll have to now take a big jump, which we're going to take in the coming 3 or 4 months, where we'd like to tell all the labs to use Indian-made plastics also. They are very good ones, so that will reduce the price of an IVF. That's my answer to you, Dr. Bharti. I think green IVF meant here was making reducing the carbon footprint, not only affordable. So buying Indian is very, very important. And when you buy an Indian product, carbon footprint will reduce because the things are not being transferred to our country by the shipments or by the air.
Transportation.
So fossil fuel will reduce, all those, the aircraft fuel will reduce, the ships carry the material, they will reduce. So fossil fuel will reduce and that will reduce the type 1 scope of emissions. So everywhere we are benefited. So I'd like to invite Dr. Sarabpreet in case he's here. He's our chair of embryology. He can he can tell us about the Indian medias and plastics. Sarabpreet, in case you're there. In case not there, then I think Rajvi can
Yes,
speak
sir.
about, you can
Sir,
speak about this.
yeah, good evening. Good
Yes.
evening to all. Good evening.
Yes.
Sir, there are some very good products available in the market which are purely made in India.
Excellent.
Like
Good.
there are plastics which we have been using since Sir initiated this green IVF concept. So we tried, and it took us a while to standardize things. But now we can confidently say that it's part of our ecosystem, the future ecosystem, and it's doing very well. I mean, it's doing at par with. I don't know whether I should be naming any companies here, but Nang being the gold standard, we are able to achieve in sibling oocytes. We are doing culture in both Nang and the Indian companies, and we are getting at par results in most of our cases. Similarly, the Indian medias, IUI medias are there, but sub medias are substandard. But if you choose wisely, then you can narrow down on certain medias which are actually at par with maybe all the European and Austrian companies. We are using only Indian medias for IUIs and all. And regarding the embryo culture media, yes, see, we believe in taking different companies media also. So purely culture media we have not changed, but I think you can safely change the brushing media. High days and PVP again, it's a very brief exposure, so you can try your Indian companies and try to develop your own protocols. And I think we have been fairly successful. Other than culture media and oil, we are able to change the rest of the media. We are able to shift to the more or less Indian companies now. We are fairly very happy. I mean, we are doing sibling culture, sibling treatment to the oocytes, and we are getting at par results. And it didn't come easy, but yes, we have been able to. So anybody needs any help on this, you can get in touch with me. You can get in touch with Dr. Talwar. So we will be able to help you, I think. And it will save a lot of money also.
Thank you, Sarabpreet. Great. I've been using plastics from Indian companies from ages now. They work beautifully well. So thank you so much. So as the head of our chair of our embryology, gave a very good inputs. And Dr. Yogesh is there. Yogesh, I'd like to speak about this part using Indian products. Because you two are embryologists here. In case Gaurav Majumdar is here, I'm very happy to listen to him. Indian products versus the most debatable thing. Should we use, we use Indian HMGs and FSH, but should we use Indian products, culture media and plastics quickly in 1 or 2 minutes? We'll sum it up. We have to unmute Yogesh.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, louder, please.
Simple. It's all about the product, but one idea came in my mind last days that when I studied these sperm morphology, and there is lot of the staining and the water and all those things are required to be done, and how many centers are doing, I do not know. That again, that these sperm morphology by the diagnostic labs, those are having their different approach of giving us report, and this morphology report by the IVF lab that is having a different approach. So in that case, we can minimize all those things by just putting this sperm morphology with the help of automated semen analysis. That is one thing. But how are we in a position to make such kind of system based on the AI or the automated system? That can be achieved, but we need the regulatory authorities for the product.
Yogesh, debate here is also. Yes. Yogesh, debate here is plastics.
Yes. I'm coming on this. I'm coming on this. So again, that when it comes to the plastic or the media, then we need to have the regulatory authorities to pass these plastics for non-toxic, endotoxin, LAL.
In case past,
Yes.
there are past plastics available now in India
Yes.
also.
So if we
Past.
are having, yes, if we are having, then we all must test at our own level and is to publish it first. Before stating anything, we should publish it, and then we
Publish it.
should come to the conclusion. This is what I want to say.
Excellent. So publish and document. So I think we should do some sort of cohort studies at all the 5 centers you want to pick up. Shweta, देख लेंगे इसको please एक बार we can note it down. We can have some
ठीक है sir.
cohort studies. है ना मैम? कुछ करके देख लेते हैं. We'll try.
But how will we do it? How will we set up this standard
we'll
of
do
doing these tests?
We'll find out, ma'am. चलते हैं आगे. We'll find out. We'll talk separately over this and we'll do it. Yes, Yogesh, last few seconds. You're muted. Yeah. So
Please
Minu, you can
unmute
give us a
yourself,
time
Dr.
out
Yogesh.
whenever you want to. Yes, Yogesh. You're muted, Yogesh.
You're muted, Dr. Yogesh.
Yes. Multicentric studies under the supervision of many. This is the answer.
Many. Correct. Great. Fantastic. So, Dr. Kalpana, we read your message that Indian brands are not doing well. I can actually tell you with surety of carrying out thousands of cycles that they work pretty well. I mean, this is my opinion. I think we can put them in the chat box. We can write that Indian products are not working and have a
Sir,
discussion open.
I completely vouch. The standard companies of India are doing wonderfully well.
Yes.
Those who
Yeah.
have an in-house manufacturing unit.
Yes, ma'am. Agreed. Fully agreed.
All
So I think
HMGs and all recombinant FSH are doing wonderfully well.
Wonderful.
Urinary FSH, I just don't use, no
We
matter
don't use
where
it.
it is.
Very,
Nobody
very right.
uses, I think, nowadays.
Very. So I think it's a
But
great.
Dr. Yeah, it was a wonderful presentation, and how much I
Yes.
resonated with this presentation, because we completely in Gangaram Hospital have gone to natural and modified natural in 70% or 80% of our ovulatory women, and we only give one molecule, one vaginal progesterone, and that also in our ovulating women 200 BD. So I think reducing the amount of drugs, we are indirectly reducing the carbon load. We must do
Footprint.
it.
Excellent.
Sir,
So
can
I
I
think so.
interject, sir?
Minu, over
can
to
we-
you. Over to you, Minu.
Dr.
Over to
Minu,
you.
yours.
Yes, so keeping the time in view, we must move on. I would like to call upon Dr. Rajvi now, and she was also wanting to probably add something to the discussion. But ma'am, we would like to invite you now for your talk, practical steps of biomedical waste disposal and recycling.
So
Please unmute Dr. Rajvi.
yeah, I'm
Good
unmuted.
evening, ma'am.
So it's nice to see this discussion going on, because way back in time when we started IVF, as a student, I always used to wonder that we can do the technology in India, but we were dependent for simple culture media. And coming from a microbiology background where you prepared your own media, it just didn't make sense. So, importing stuff. And it's really so many decades later we are discussing it. But the fact remains that people are always concerned about quality. And I think we should be at a stage we are buying a product not because it's Indian, but because it is good and better than what is available. So it's not just the Indian mark, but because it is the best available. And for that, we need to be demanding on the manufacturers to maintain consistency over their quality. And once we get that, I don't think we need to convince anybody to use Indian products. So now coming to the topic of green IVF waste disposal, and so my team members are Dr. Shalini Chawla, Dr. Ritu Jain, Dr. Chitra, Dr. Raju Nair, and Dr. Shilpa Sharma. And we've had a couple of discussions on how we are going to move. And the thumb rule for sustainability is the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. But at the same time, we know that change in ART practices is very difficult. It's a great challenge for people to shift, even shift from media brand to shift from anything unless it doesn't work. And especially if you have a good outcome, good results, you're resistant to change. So this is something which is a general mentality. I mean, yes, we say we do in parallels and then shift over, but it is something which is difficult, but it doesn't mean it is not possible. And so I'm going to be discussing the practices that can be changed and the challenges that we would face. And there would be some repetition with my previous speakers, but that just possibly goes on to say that it is something which is implementable, which is possible and important. So what is the waste generated in ART? First, it's paper. I mean, we have 20, how many consent forms that need to be signed? And then there's going to be nicely put up in files and files put up in another place. And the amount of paper we generate with all the stimulation protocols in the lab instructions. So we have tons and tons of paper. Then we have cartons. And considering Culture App, we have a dishes in plasticware, plastic shields, and that coming in cartons, and it goes on and on with all the different things we buy and the packing materials. In fact, this is possibly becoming an international issue with we having quick delivery with Amazon. The amount of cartons we generate in each living society is enormous. Yes, it generates economy, it generates good economic flow. We have more manufacturers and there is a good flow of finance. Then we have our disposables, yes, cap, mask, gowns, and we keep replacing them, changing them. Plasticware, we've already had a lot of discussion on it. We have the biological fluids, we have the follicular fluids, the seminal plasma, culture media, where we have cultured the embryo, and the semen processing material, reagents, and oil. So this is the basic waste that would be generated in an ART lab. Here I also include the devices used for cryopreservation. So now, what are the suggestions to reduce? So as we said, we are going to have reduce, reuse, recycle. So yes, switching from paper to digital, easier said than done. So first thing is, if I say the consent forms, can we have digital consent? It will be easy to save it, less paper load, but is it legally feasible? Is it permitted? Because now many agreements are signed digitally on a PDF file and stored. So first and foremost, is the law permitting us to do that? Maybe a video consent, then I think we'll reduce a lot of paper load. Second is we always have the fear of losing out the data, whether it is the embryology data or patient data, history, etc. So how do we use technology so we have multiple backups and auto backups? It cannot be that we are dependent on individuals to take a backup and they forget about it. So from the hard disk to the servers and an auto backup system every few minutes or whatever. So we use technology in a big way. We've talked about manufacturing and media and disposables in India because of the environmental load of shipping these. And we just talk about, air and shipping. The major concern has always been quality. And it's not to say because it's made in Europe or the US or Australia, it is better quality than India, but possibly it is about maintaining consistency. So if we can have the strict quality assurance and testing by the manufacturers in India, that would be a big shift. And thirdly, since India is such a large consumer of ART products, can't these multinationals be asked to manufacture in India, at least till we start making our own? So they have everything in place, but they do it in India, so we reduce the environmental load of shipping. Now, to reduce, I would strongly say we should not think about reducing the number of dishes and pipettes. Of course, if there is wastage, surely reduce it, but just reducing it can compromise quality. And what I mean to say is that sometimes people tend to use less, I would, instead of 30 microliters of media, let me use 15 microliters of media. Rest assured, there will be osmolarity changes which could affect the outcome. So we do not want to compromise the culture conditions. We want to use as many dishes as required. It is risky to put 8 to 10 drops in the same dish because there is always a risk. And if there's an accident, we lose everything. So I would not talk about reducing anything at the cost of quality. Yes, if there is an overuse, go, because in terms of cost or in terms of what we are going to bring to the environment, it will not make a difference. Now, what is the concerns and suggestions for reuse? So if you have, I think the easiest things to do is shift from disposable cap, mask, gowns, and shoe covers. I mean, transition is very easy. We've done it not many years ago. Question would be, yes, if we are going to autoclave all this, we are using more electricity, but at least hard waste would reduce to a great extent. And as far as the sterility is concerned, I mean, it's not something we're going to be worried about because it's not that it's going to be in direct contact with whatever we are doing. Thermocol boxes in which we get our culture media, styrofoam, and the cartons. Can we just have a system and say when they are delivered, we take back the old ones, whether they charge or uncharged, but it should be made mandatory. So at least it is recycled very easily and it is rather reused easily because, they come in good conditions and they can return there. And plasticware, I would not recommend reusing it for reasons. It's not just the sterility aspect that we are concerned about, but plastic itself may bring about certain changes which may affect the embryo quality. So we cannot compromise quality at the cost. It's not just about contamination with plastics. And here I would like to draw your attention that there are few papers coming in which actually talk about plastic altering gene expression. So irrespective of plastic, whether we are reusing it or fresh, it may impact embryonic development. So it's something we should be very cautious about. And I would not talk about reuse of these materials in our lab. Now, coming to the third aspect, for reusing, then we come things that can be done. So we can recycle, and that is something that lots can be done with plastic. And one of the best use of plastic is to use it for the making of roads. The roads become much stronger, smoother, and long lasting. And if we can have a direct connection with those kind of people who are doing this, I think we will be moving towards utilizing our disposables for a betterment of society. So what are the things we need to do? I think if we can immediately get some legal advice, or if it involves changes with the law which permits digital consents, I think we will be moving a big way, because with hundreds and thousands of patients, we will reduce the paper load. And for that, we need changes, possibly whether this is available and allowed. And secondly, if not, can changes be made in the law to permit it? Basic software. I mean, I think all labs have their software, but somewhere or the other, there is a lot of variability. To at least some software available, provided to all the clinics who need it, so that we go to less paper, if not paperless. Implement reuse. I think that can be done just immediately. Advocate for reuse of packaging material. I mean, if we insist as the final consumer, I think the organizations who are involved, manufacturers, would listen to us, because finally everybody wants to make the customer happy. And we should convince them for manufacturing in India, whoever it is, Indian, international companies. And I think we need to go for direct sourcing of recycling of plastic directly to the companies, because we segregate the waste, then it goes to party A, party B. So as an organization, if there is somebody who is involved, because there are so many uses, and this seems to be, to me, one of the best uses. So if there is a direct connection instead of a lot of middlemen with organizations involved in road making, and there is a direct collect mechanism. And we should promote organizations or manufacturers who are into green environment, so that will entice the others also to do so. So if company X is doing a lot of work with green, then the others will be motivated if we give it. And I think we need to educate staff on wasting, because a piece of paper means nothing. Scribble a note, thrown away, scribble another note. So at all levels, that whatever you're doing, it's not just the cost, but you are creating a load on the environment. So end note, I would say, in our concern for reducing the carbon footprint, we should not compromise quality. Not that anybody is asking for it, but we need to have a balance in that. To the 3 R's of reduce, reuse, and recycle, I would say research and replace. In the sense, let's do more research. What is an alternative to plastic? Is there something available in the environment? And that requires a lot of collaboration and a multidimensional, multidisciplinary approach. Maybe talks with the biochemists, chemists, manufacturers, where new agents can be used as alternatives. Because as it is, we know that plastic is not good for the environment. So is there something which is a good replacement? And I think these deliberations need to continue, because it's only when you come as a group and you brainstorm, maybe out of 10 ideas, one idea may be appealing and can be implementable. And I think simple ideas, we don't need to discuss more, like changing into the caps, masks, paper, etc. should be implemented immediately. I don't think that needs any discussion. All we need to do is motivate people. Come on, this is the way to go. And you're losing nothing by it. In fact, all you're doing is gaining. So I think I'll end with that. I hope, Dr. Meenu, I've kept to the time. Yes.
Ma'am, you have. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. You dropped in 10 minutes and it's done. Thank you so much for that crisp talk. And research and replace is, I think, the takeaway. I would put it at that. And also here, another thing for the remaining speakers, please, let's be very, very precise. I'm not going to allow any more discussion. We just have half an hour left. And then otherwise, we'll all be late for our dinner and wrapping up the day. So thank you so much, Rajvi ma'am. And the next speaker for the day is Dr. Pooja. And she talks about execution of embryology initiatives to reduce environmental carbon load. So Dr. Pooja, kindly start on with your topic, please. Dr. Pooja, are you there?
Hi, hello, good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm just going to
Please.
share my So before starting my talk, I would like to thank you, Dr. Pankaj Salwar sir, Dr. Shweta ma'am, Sonia Malik ma'am, of course, Dr. Meenu for making me on board for this green initiative. My topic today is execution of embryology initiative to reduce environmental carbon load. I will start. Carbon load refers to the total amount of carbon dioxide emissions, or sometimes more broadly, the carbon emission from various human activities or natural processes that contribute to the carbon footprint of a given entity, system, or the process. High carbon load contribute to the climate change. So healthcare industry contribute to carbon load. Healthcare facilities, especially hospitals, operate 24/7 and require large amount of energy to power equipment, lighting, heating, air conditioning, and medical devices. The demand for energy result in significant carbon emissions. A hospital can consume 10 to 20 times more energy per square foot than typical commercial building, with energy cost often being up 10 to 15% of total operating cost. So why should we try to be sustainable? And change is not favorable. So adopting sustainable practices in healthcare is essential for reducing carbon emission, conserving resources, and mitigating the negative effect of climate change. The view that our own reduction of greenhouse gases emission will have too small of an effect to make an important difference, then also we must try on individual level. Below, I have mentioned few key suggestions to sustainable practices, which are now crucial in the healthcare industry and especially in the IVF laboratory. So first question, when we initiate such kind of new things in our system, the first question came in the mind, do I make a difference? The answer is yes. Change begins with the awareness, and a small change can make a big difference. So we have to start looking at our SOPs, our protocols, and the way we are dealing in our IVF laboratory. So once we are aware of what we are doing, then only we can change the practice a bit so that we can come closer towards the green IVF. So the suggestion of day-to-day operations, small changes make a bigger impact. So what we can do, we can make a paper-free clinic or use less of the paper. Instead of making multiple registers, we can use cloud-based system or documentation. And since we are talking about Indian made, we are now having very good companies coming up with a very good softwares, very elaborated, and which we can use for the documentation. It form instead of for the consent, instead of taking it on the paper. And if there is a necessity, because our seniors just said that it cannot be paperless, but we can minimize the use of paper. So in case we are using the paper, we try to use the recyclable paper, or we can use both sides. We can manage inventory to avoid throwing away unused items. Ask for product with longer expiry date to avoid the method just mentioned, like we can reuse ice packs, cardboard, styrofoam boxes, or we can simply give back to the vendors and ask them to reuse it again. Now come to the mindful use of energy, because a lab is full of equipment which we are using 24/7. So things. So whenever it is not required, turn off your computers and monitors. Use motion sensor to activate or turn off ceiling lights. Perform preventive fridge maintenance every 6 days. or other equipment as well. Install outlet timers, especially for the heated equipment. When it is not required, they can go into auto shut mode. Switch off all the essential equipment while out of hours. Reduce AC and heating use in the office. Use new energy efficient equipment and LED lights. Use renewable sources to supply energy to the building, like we can make solar panels, as Dr. Manisha mentioned and Dr. Loveleen ma'am also mentioned. We can use the rooftop of the hospital or any place where we can have such panels. For how to achieve all these things, we simply single-handedly cannot achieve. Our staff should be trained and educated to educate lab personnel about equipment shut-off process. We can implement a sticker system to communicate it, and when specific lab equipment can be powered down. So I've read this thing somewhere. For example, a red sticker put on some equipment that equals to do not shut down. A yellow sticker equals to shut down at the end of the day, and a green sticker equals to shut down immediately after use. See, this color combination and color things are very much we have used in the IVF laboratory like since ages. So I think color coding is the best method to guide and educate our staff. Now come to the streamlining lab operations, how we can streamline these things. Efficient equipment scheduling, optimize the scheduling of lab equipment usage to ensure energy efficient operation, such as incubator and microscope. When they are not required, they should be switched off. And this is how we can significantly save the energy consumption. Preventive maintenance. Regular maintenance and calibration of equipment ensure that machinery operate at peak efficiency, reducing energy consumption and prolonging the life of expensive equipment. Low flow equipment. We can use low flow gas and liquid system for incubators and microscope and other lab tools to reduce consumption without compromising the quality of work. Now come to the laboratory part. Since I'm an embryologist, I'm only looking at how we can reduce or we can go nearer to the green IVF. So obviously, as Dr. Raj, within that limited resource, what we can change. So we can practice good cold storage management. And one thing I just mentioned, that discourage frequent interclinic transport of cryopreserved cell and tissues, because it takes a lot of fuel and fuel consumption, and also a lot of loss of liquid nitrogen. A simple technique, we can say weighing semen sample to assess volume to reduce pipetting. Weighing the volume of semen sample with the pipetting is not the right method. Instead of weighing the semen sample in a weighing meter is the right method. Consider reducing consumables during laboratory case preparation. Just a minute. So when it comes to the media, it can be little biased, but yes, using a single step media to reduce the number of media changes, because single step media allow an uninterrupted culture till day 3 and day 5, and this would minimize the wastage and energy consumption. Again, this is very personal choice, whether you want to use the single step media or the sequential media, but yes, this we can include in our practice if you are using. In case of more number of oocyte, droplet culture can be used instead of using big volumes in a central well dish. So again, I'm not saying go for any compromise. Make an ideal dish droplet culture, which is suitable for your culture conditions till day 3 or day 5, whatever you are practicing. So instead of using a bigger volume like 60 mm dishes, we can also use 35 mm dishes, because it takes lesser oil as compared to the 60 mm dishes.
And as we are practicing day and day night about the embryology, we should have a very good calculation about the requirement per patient or per procedure, and then we can procure strategically. Sustainable transportation, logistic, and cryo storage. So stainless steel cryogenic drawers can be used instead of aluminum ones, as stainless steel offers
Dr.
lower
Pooja, sorry,
of
just
boiling
1 minute left to go.
Okay, so boiling of LN2 as compared to the aluminum. Do not encourage the transportation of cryotank to the LN2 plant, as during transportation, cryotank may break because of mishandling. While working, reduce the frequent opening of these LN2 drawers. Periodically check of any crack of the damage of LN2 cans are very important. Maintain the cryocan room temperature ambient. Efficient sample transportation is also very, very important. Now come to the research and innovation in sustainable human embryology. In embryology, as they give us a better embryo selection, monitoring, and leading to the fewer resource of intensive cycles. Then sustainable culture media. Obviously, we have discussed, do not compromise, but use a good quality media. Alternate reproductive technology, research into gene editing technique and non-invasive embryo testing can reduce the need of costly and energy-intensive procedure, such as multiple cycle of IVF and cryopreservation. Again, the thing is, whenever any new technique you are using in your practice, just be sure it is proven. And the end of this slide, we are the end user, and it is up to us to carry out daily tasks sustainably. Some changes that are much smaller than you think, but may have a substantial impact on sustainability. It is primarily the culture of workers that detect how sustainable you are. Try to use made in India equipment, which we are discussing, and which can also reduce carbon emission associated with the transportation. A good news is that now we have a Indian-made RoboXC and time lapse, which is never ever in India before. So we can use those things. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja. Very well researched and loaded talk, I must say, and very pertinent points. Thank you so much. I guess we are not gonna be dwelling too much on that, but thank you. I really liked your talk. It was really loaded with so many good
Thank
points.
you, Dr. Meenu.
Yeah, so let's go on to the next speaker for the day, Dr. Shilpa Doltani, execution of steps to reduce environmental burden due to cryobiology. Please unmute yourself. Yeah.
And I'm just sharing my screen.
You have to go full screen. Yeah. Have you loaded your talk?
Are you good with audio and video?
Yeah, we can see it. Please continue.
Yeah, so hello and good evening, everyone. Myself, Dr. Shilpa Doltani. I am glad I got the opportunity to be part of the Sustainability IVF program. So today we'll be talking on reducing environmental burden due to cryobiology, along with our team members and my mentor, Dr. Yogesh Kumar. Since our passion lies in improving IVF techniques while minimizing the environmental impact. So now our agenda of the talk will be how cryobiology impacts the environment. What are the current practices in cryobiology, and what could be done to reduce the environmental burden? What strategies to be implemented for sustainable cryobiology technology? So now imagine this, we have successfully created a life in a dish and only to lose it because our freezing method was not effective. So there is where cryobiology comes in the picture. So that's a powerful science that helps preserve embryos, oocytes, and sperm. But there is a catch. While cryobiology has revolutionized the ART, but it has also contributed to climate change and environmental damage. So today we'll be discussing how we can make cryobiology greener, because science shouldn't come at the cost of our planet. So a few points which we need to understand before we move to our sustainability strategies. So cryobiology relies completely on three methods: slow freezing, vitrification, and rapid freezing. We know that think of this any of the cryobiology methods as a sports car, but they are like fast, they are powerful, but burns a lot of fuel. So the question is, can we make it cleaner and smarter? Now, the challenges which any IVF lab faces is the energy consumption. So IVF labs are energy insensitive due to many of the freezers and equipment which significantly increase carbon footprint. And we are seeing that cryoprotectants, which are essential for any sample preservation in cryobiology, they possess toxic waste and environmental risk. Also, plastic disposables, which we use, which require and demand an alternative due to extensive environmental burden. So traditional, as we discussed, it can leave the our environment impacted. So this is two figures which shows that energy consumption in different freezing methods, how much we are consuming, and carbon footprint comparison, where leading with the hospitals, cryo labs are also one which has the higher footprints in kg CO2 per year. Now, coming to the environmental footprint, so if we take a step back and look at the entire cryopreservation process, it's like a chain reaction, starting from the raw materials, liquid nitrogen production, transportation, plastic usage. Eventually, it will be we are generating the waste. But here's the good news: we have solution exists. So renewable energy sources, like switching, as our earlier speakers, Dr. Lovely and Dr. Manisha mentioned, to switch on to solar panels, and labs can reduce their annual footprint in that way. Efficient LN2 recycling systems, which was a case study presented by Morris et al. In 2023, that because of that, there was essentially reduction in energy consumption of the lab by 30%. Biodegradable cryoprotectants, which are the safer alternatives to protect embryos while cutting down the chemical waste, and reusing the disposables wherever it is possible. Now, we won't be able to, like, instead of overhauling everything at once, what if we can take smaller and impactful steps? So first, we can adopt innovative freezing techniques. So like refining the vitrification protocols, as in research base, there are low energy vitrification exists, which has thermal insulated in our devars, which lower the consumption of liquid nitrogen. So that can reduce excessive energy use. Now, integrating all these sustainable practices like renewable energy adoption and improved insulation can cut energy demand, but without sacrificing the results. And lastly, we can have some regulatory framework, as mentioned by our previous speakers, to have an eco-friendly standard, so we can guide scientists, industry leaders, and policymakers to a sustainability goals. So all this can make our very healthier outcomes, not just for the families, but for the planets as well. So these are some key points where we talk about what will be done to reduce environmental impact. First is energy efficient laboratory design. So we can incorporate energy saving technologies and sustainable architecture principle to reduce energy requirements. And so that upgrading the smart monitoring system can cut energy consumption by 20 to 30%. Low energy vitrification, so to achieve same fast cooling rates, but without power demand. Eco-friendly cryoprotectants like proline, the amino acid proline, the tree halos, naturally achieved tree halos, can offer protection without toxic residues. Renewable energy sources, lab powered by solar, wind energy, are already reducing their carbon footprints. And as mentioned by not to use papers and digital transformation, automated lab tools can help minimizing the resource waste. So these all strategies are practical and scalable. So we just need to implement them wisely. So as we discussed about the case study of the Morris et al. So it shows that this proves that sustainability isn't just a theory, it's achievable. Now, what we the strategies which we discussed here, how we can implement this. So there is also in the research, we have the nano encapsulation for the cryoprotections that reduce the low toxicity and chemical waste is ultimately lowered. And LN2 recycling system where we include where we implement closed loop LN2s to conserve critical resources. So now how we can come to all the steps. So it's like a step-by-step approach. We need to plan, execute. We also need resource allocation to our financial and human technology resources, and to seamless integration of all the sustainable methods into our laboratories. So this can be our implementation roadmaps where we'll be identifying some key point indicators, which is KPIs. So we can start with energy audits and establish baseline metrics for energy consumption in our labs, which instrument is consuming higher than the regular and what requires calibration. So that can be our initial action. Midterms, we can try starting with eco-friendly materials and updating protocols with sustainable methods. And then we can fine tune our practices across in our long-term goal. So along with that, we need to evaluate our impact as well by we have to have some clear quantifiable KPIs, which can help measuring the environmental impact due to cryobiological practices. And also we should have some effective data collection methods to support and monitoring of KPIs. So that employ real-time analytical and environmental audit. And coming to the next part, so it's like how systematic impact, like both what we have indicated KPIs, it is very essential to understand how much consequences we are facing due to cryobiological practice. So as per that will vary from lab to lab, so that we can definitely initialize. Now, these are the few research recent studies which we have seen that as we have improved biodegradable cryoprotectants, LN2 recycling, how much effectiveness score we have seen so to improve sustainable practices in the industry. Now, there is a graph as well where we shows that low energy vitrification demonstrating significant reduction in energy consumption, and how nano technology-based cryoprotectants can minimal cell damage without altering the results and make promising innovation for cryopreservation. So by taking all these small steps today, we can build a sustainable IVF industry tomorrow. So in closing statement, as Dr. Loveleen told, sustainable practice in cryobiology are no longer optional, they are essential. So by adopting all this low vitrification, eco-friendly cryoprotections and energy-efficient lab designs, we can ensure cryobiology continues to bring joy to families while protecting at the same time our planet. So it's the future of IVF is not just about creating life; it's about sustaining it too. So yeah, I'm hoping that along with this group, we can work together to make that happen. And yeah. Thank you for
wonderful. Very nice, Dr. Shilpa. Very nice. Very well explained and very well delivered. Thank you so much for your effort.
Yeah.
Again, we move on to the next one and ask our seniors to give their input at the end of the program. Dr. Sangeeta Sharma will now talk about what is practically possible to execute Made in India initiatives. Dr. Sangeeta.
Yeah. I have to share my screen. I can't see the maximized view on my screen. How do I do that?
Ma'am, please open your presentation, ma'am.
Okay, I think it's minimized.
Now we can see your screen.
Okay, just a second. Can you see my presentation?
Yeah, we can see it, Dr. Sangeeta. Just go to the full screen and we can get started. We can see it now.
Okay, so how do I go to the full screen?
It's an icon at the bottom.
She is full screen. Am I right?
Right, please
You
proceed.
are full screen, Sangeeta.
But I can't see my own presentation. Just a second, sir. Just trying. Is it
I
better
think
now?
let's proceed with it, Dr. Sangeeta. We are running short of time, please.
Yeah. So thank you so much, sir.
Now, yeah, you are full screen now.
And I think most of my work has already been done, although my talk is a little unique, like how to actually execute it all, Make in India initiative. But still, I think in the middle of the discussions, Dr. Talwar sir initiated, and we got some good inputs from Dr. Saratri, Dr. Shweta, and Dr. Rajvi, like what is already happening regarding Make in India in the IVF industry. So this is the team 8, the Make in India initiative team. And without wasting time, today I would be discussing what is practically possible to execute Made in India initiative to reduce the GHG emissions. So the flow of talk would be, what is the scope of Make in India in the IVF industry? What are the steps required for actually making in India? What are the challenges for execution? What is the current scenario? And what are the suggestions to overcome challenges? So what is the aim of this Made in India initiative in context of the IVF industry? It is to boost the domestic manufacturing of medical devices, pharmaceuticals, and consumables, to make IVF treatment more affordable. Not only that, accessible to all, especially rural and suburban areas also. Along with that, we need technological advancement for innovation and development of indigenous IVF technologies tailored to Indian context. So we know that we have to boost the domestic manufacturing of mainly pharmaceuticals, including the hormonal, medical devices, including but not limited to ventilators, suction pumps, laminar flow workstation, microscopes, different types being used at the lab, media, extremely important, consumables, cleaning agents, not to forget them, air handling units, room air purifiers, and different types of filters also. So what are the steps of execution of Make in India? Now, first and most important is we have to have manufacturer friendly and encouraging government policies in India, which is a very, very big challenge. And I feel that Indian Fertility Society can, we can use this platform and reach the government out there to bring that awareness that this is the first and foremost step which needs to be taken. After that, creating the infrastructure, which includes the manufacturing units, the plants, etc. Raw material procurement wherever it is required. But like Dr. Shweta also mentioned, that a lot of manufacturing is already happening in India with regard to drugs also. So the actual manufacturing, then comes the quality control, the storage, the transportation, the research and development cell and funding for R&D, very, very important. And trust building in the IVF specialists and embryologists pan India for using the domestic Indian products, which is a big challenge today, like we just discussed. Quality assurance and honest feedback systems for further improvement. Now, another important thing is that during all this, we have to remember, especially during the manufacturing, the storage and transportation, that low GHG emission needs to be kept in mind, because that is actually the whole purpose of Green IVF initiative. So the major challenges are, like I just said, the government policies. Another one is quality control in a lot of things like consumables and media and many things which are being manufactured, but still we have to work more on quality control, which is associated with more of R&D and funding, and us building pan India in this IVF industry. So what is the current status? We all know that most of the big names in the field are mostly either distributors or vendors, and very, very few are actually manufacturers. So most of these people are, or these companies are importing media and equipment from outside India, thus increasing the cost, more of excise and custom duties, more taxes, and finally all this cost is being translated onto the patient, onto the IVF cost. not only the cost, like Dr. Rajvi also mentioned and Dr. Pankaj sir said, it's not actually only the cost. We are also increasing the energy consumption, the carbon footprinting by more of shipping and transportation. Most of the media is also imported, although some domestic manufacturing is also started, but we need to have that trust on the Indian companies, which would only come by, using them in larger number of IVF labs pan-India. Long back, we remember that some of the centers did in-house preparation of culture media, including Gandharam, I remember. Dr. Gaur was there at that time. So those are learning lessons still for us. Most incubators are also imported. A few local companies are manufacturing, trials are there, but again, we need more assurance on the quality control part. They are far from scaling up and actual clinical use. Most of them are either non-CO2 being used for IUIs, but not per se for embryo culture Similarly, hormonal drugs, we recently discussed that mostly they are packaged in India. However, now we know that there are Indian companies also, not only for HMG urinary products, but also recombinant, which are being used, and we should actually encourage them because like we just said that it's not only reducing the cost, but it is coming up with a similar quality. So that is very, very important. Consumables of IVF grade mostly imported, tried in India, but there was QC issues, but now they should be tried and encouraged. When we talk of ovum pickup needles, ET catheters, again, most of them are important. Unofficially, I have taken, feedback from many people. Some say that in bulk, they had purchased at lower cost the Indian products, but they found some issues with maybe uniformity, the smoothness, the ecogenicity. Some still said that they were satisfied and it was a cost-effective option with equal quality being delivered. So we need to work on that also. Cleaning agents, again, we know the most commonly used ones are still imported. Local domestic surface cleaning agents or surface disinfectants, I would say, they are also being manufactured. Again, different opinions I got from people. Some said that the VOC count increased. Some said that the constitution was a little different from that of the standard dosage being used. Some reported rusting of the metallic furniture also. But again, a few people are still satisfied. So the biggest challenges are government policies, including the taxation, the quality control, training of workforce, and R&D. Now, what are the suggestions for executing Make in India in IVF? First and foremost is incentivizing domestic production by offering tax benefits and subsidies to IVF equipment manufacturing companies within India, subsidized low-interest loans to encourage investment in R&D of indigenous IVF technologies, government procurement. Now, like I said, that government will have to come up in a very big way in this whole initiative in coordination with the private sector, not only the manufacturers, but the clinics also. So government procurement, they have to prioritize the procurement of domestically manufactured IVF products for government-run hospitals and healthcare centers. Promoting R&D, for that research funds should be dedicated for R&D of innovative IVF technologies, skill development and training of workforce, including international exposure. So those kinds of exchange programs should be more often and planned and actually funded. Encouraging collaborations between research institutes, government hospitals, and private companies should be encouraged. Improving the legal and regulatory framework in the country. This is again a very sensitive part. There should be control, quality control to ensure safety and efficacy of the IVF consumables. On the contrary, there should be easy rules and regulations for approval and marketing of indigenous products. Price control on drugs and consumables to make it more affordable for patients, but not compromising on the quality simultaneously. And insurance coverage, we've been discussing in the previous talks, also extremely important to create that insight in the insurance companies and government authorities for IVF treatment to reduce the financial burden on the patient. So now we have been discussing about the sources of GHG emissions. Now, how do we incorporate this Make in India initiative in actually reducing the GHG emissions?
Dr. Sangeeta, gentle reminder, 8 minutes done.
1 minute? We all have been talking in all this in the previous talk. So energy consumption, we know it all comes from incubators, microscopes, refrigerators, etc. So what can we do in the Make in India initiative? We have to promote energy efficiency by manufacturing advanced equipment which is more energy efficient. We have to promote the renewable energy sources, not only in the manufacturing facilities, but also in the IVF clinics. So that infrastructure also needs to be developed, like Dr. Manisha talked of the geothermal, which was a very new thing to me. Transportation, this also increases the carbon print. So local sourcing by Make in India initiative can actually reduce the carbon footprint associated with transportation. Medical supplies and waste management is another very important source for GHG emission, because we know that in the IVF industry, there is a lot of use of single-use plastics and other disposable equipment, and energy-intensive processes are used for medical waste disposal. So we need to promote the use of environment-friendly materials, lesser of plastic, more of glass, linen, etc., wherever possible, and not compromising quality, which is actually the most important thing. Apart from that, we've talked about this in the previous lectures also, that multiple visits can be cut down by the use of telemedicine, lesser paperwork, more of digital record keeping, research and development aimed at creating greener and more sustainable IVF technologies. So to conclude, these measures can help in promoting the indigenous healthcare manufacturing sector under the Make in India initiative. They can further help in providing not only affordable and accessible, but more eco-friendly, greener, and thus sustainable IVF treatment to patients. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sangeeta. Very, very well-balanced talk. And I think the focus of your talk is basically getting government initiatives, doing more of R&D, and of course, making the Make in India initiatives practical. Thank you again for a very, very well-researched talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now for the last talk of the day. I would like to call upon Dr. Meenu Agarwal ma'am. She's going to be talking on the practical steps to execute the novel ideas that we can, initiate to bring about net zero by 2045. Ma'am,
Yes.
please
Thank you very
welcome, and stage is all yours,
very
ma'am.
much. I will try and wind up my talk very, very fast. Because most of the things have already been covered. So practical steps to execute, what are the novel ideas and how we can achieve net zero by 2045. I would like to thank my team, Dr. Bindu Chimote, Dr. Meenu Vashisht, you are here, Dr. Neha Verma, Dr. Charu, and Farha. Every time we would ask for a link, she would immediately create the link and send it to us for us to discuss. So thank you for that. Today's newspaper, it was mentioned all Arctic ice could melt by 2027. So this came in today's paper, and I think IFS, Pankaj sir, Dr. Shilpa, Dr. Shweta, we are all ahead of times. We are already talking about green IVF and how to reduce carbon footprints to the planet. So a few things what I could think of and gather from my sources. One is that maybe we will have more energy efficient buildings, minimal use of air conditioning, heaters, solar panels, especially a country like ours. We have a huge advantage of having a lot of sun and we can use it. Water conservation and natural lighting rather than having LED lights or other lights. So natural lighting maybe as wherever it is possible, maybe we could have. Eco-friendly, biodegradable, recyclable equipment, minimize disposables, everybody has already spoken about it, and less use of chemicals. That means suppose you want to sterilize, maybe the sterilizers will change back to water, more modern water or steam-based sterilizers. Lab people have spoken very beautifully about green lab. Another thing which was mentioned that maybe in these few years by 2045 there will be no cryopreservation. We will go back to fresh embryo transfers because cryopreservation itself is probably not so bio-friendly or to the planet. less refrigeration, it will be more AI based. So it will be more precise single embryo transfer, and we will be probably getting better pregnancy rates. Less electricity, and even pharma should focus how to process, how to make, how to produce the medication. So maybe that process will also change by the time we reach another 20 years from now. The medications might become more plant-based, biodegradable, and no injections. In fact, from Bombay IIT, one student has developed a technology where the injections can be given as patches. So no injections, then no syringes, no, all that can be reduced. And of course, waste reduction in the lab. Then by then the office practice, which already is more of a digital practice, electronic health records, and every clinic will have its own recycling station. That means you use it and then you put it in the recycling station, which is nobody has, you only have to separate out the stuff and put it in the recycling station. Even for patient, whatever we are using toiletries for the patient, snacks should be more or will become more organic. Outdoor spaces will have more plants, and maybe they might create some vertical gardens even outside the hospitals, so that the water consumption or the irrigation is much less. Then maybe IFS can come out with something like this, that green certification. Maybe it will become mandatory by then that every center or every hospital should have a green certification, which is a validation, just like validation by other bodies for nursing home. So a green certification might become mandatory, and we may have to work with environmental organizations to make sure that we are moving in the right direction. We also need to hold more webinars, events, even with the community, even with the patients, support groups, so that they will also collaborate with eco-friendly brands. Then encouraging the employees and patients. Okay, you don't use, everybody should not be coming using a car and coming. You use public transport, you use a bike, or you can use a carpool. Or suppose somebody is using a carpool, we can offer discounts on using this. So all these things may come up. And of course, every hospital or every clinic will have an electric charging station for the cars. No, there was a nice program on TV, on Netflix, where they were talking about buy, but we are just talking, they're pushing us to buy. So many times we get pushed by the medical reps, by the company people, okay, to buy things. And everything which is, like my boss told me, that everything which is new or advanced is not necessarily good. So maybe, we should hold ourselves before buying another incubator, another the new one has come, now the new one has come, because we are just increasing the waste, and the waste is just getting piled up. The e-waste is getting piled up all over in various countries. That programs we should watch on Netflix. Then, of course, recycling, biodegradable, all these water bottles and everything, and even the dishes, petri dishes, the test tubes, all that by then will have become biodegradable. This was a new case, this publication which I saw, where they were talking about air purification by microbiota. So this is how they are using in NASA, in the spaceships. So maybe we will get this technology, and we will start using this technology for the air purification. This is again a biotechnological marvel, kind of a breakthrough technology, where now they have got this IVF, by IVF, this calf called Hilda, that is her name, and she will produce less methane in the air. And now they are trying to have the same genetics for the more and more calves, so that they will produce milk, but the methane production will be less. So all these things are coming up in various other fields as well. And these are small baby steps that we all are taking, we all are discussing. And I am, feel very proud to be a part of IFS, where we are discussing this at this point of time. So to take away points, I would say we talk about good clinic design, medical equipments, green IVF treatment, office should be sustainable, less waste in the lab, eco-friendly patient products, green certification. Every clinic which is following all this can get kind of a certification to boost up the morale, sustainable travel and community awareness. So thank you very much, and I hope I was in time. Thank you so much.
Sorry, ma'am, I was running short of battery. Just put on my charger. But wonderful, ma'am. You've been very, very brief and so quick. But I love that few articles that you mentioned about, the microbiota, which is going to refreshing, input to this talk of yours, and the Hilda, the new calf that we have. So I think many more options and the entire world is talking about going green and various alternatives. So I think we are at the right place and right space. And now over to my seniors, Dr. Talwar, Dr. Shweta ma'am, Dr. Meenu ma'am, yourself, and all of the others who are here. Please, let's wrap it up by a quick.
I think we should invite Dr. Bindu Chimote. She is there. She wants to say something. Lovely job done from your end, ma'am. So, like to say something and probably sum it up.
Well, I mean, I have been listening on and off. First of all, I'm at the airport. Still, our flight has got delayed. So, what can I say? Everyone was wonderful. We cannot even think how many ideas that people can come up with. In the first webinar, we felt everyone could be getting more repetitive, and now we are coming up with newer ideas. Each group has come up with some or the other novel idea, and I hope we can do something really revolutionary in terms of India giving something new to the world with all the drive and backing from Sir and Dr. Shweta, Dr. Pankaj Talwar Sir and Dr. Shweta. So I'm sorry I couldn't listen to all the talks. Continuously, but then yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bindu. And I think time to sum up is pretty late, and it's green IVF as such. We should have sleep at right time and do well. So I think I'll invite Dr. Shweta Mittal to sum it up, ma'am, and then we can say goodbye.
Yeah, I think all the teams did a wonderful job. I think we're getting very wiser. We've become very wise. I'm sure we'll implement. Every time I was listening to the talk, I was thinking, what is something new which I can introduce maybe in my clinic or in the lab or something somewhere. And if we keep hearing this and we keep participating in this program, I'm sure we will get greener. We will definitely get greener. Every group really presented, they put their best foot forward, bringing in all the innovative and novel ideas. Thank you, Dr. Meenu, for getting this whole program going and all the time, informing all the groups to be on time, motivating, reminding. So I think really excellent. And of course, the cherry on the cake is Dr. Pankaj Talwar's constant motivations. He will be sending some green pictures in the group every time a good work is done. So Dr. Meenu, I think you should be the one who should be saying the last words of today's.
Ma'am, I think it is the teams. All the teams have worked so hard. It is actually a big clap to all the teams. And though I think we kind of, I think I put pressure on the last 4 speakers, but they were actually really splendid. So thank you, everybody. It's all yours and it is all ours. So let's make it green.
Yeah, 3 cheers
Practically
for
so.
IFS.
Thank you so much.
I think big
Yes.
shout out for IFS and 3
Yes,
cheers
yes.
for all of us.
3 cheers
I think
for all.
big clap and big applause for everyone who's present here. And let's take a group picture. Can you please, someone forgot about it. Forgot about
Okay,
it.
everybody
Put a
come in the
camera on.
frame.
Cameras on and big smile. And Gunjan is hiding behind that camera. Anchal is here. All of you are here. Lovely, lovely, lovely faces. Let's take a small picture. So, Meenu, will you do that?
My screen, I cannot really see a lot of people, sir. If you would do that, I think that will
Yeah,
make more
I can
sense.
see
I
more.
just can see
Uh,
very few
Yeah,
people.
at least we can all put on our cameras on. It'll be very, very nice.
Or else
For few
Rahul can do us the
I'll do
honors.
that, sir.
Rahul?
I'll do that.
I've taken a couple of pictures now. Rahul, you take one.
Yeah, let me take my picture now. Okay,
I can't see.
right. So, guys, say cheers and I'm taking a small video of you people. So you can say cheers and big shout out to IFS. Thank you so much. Yeah, lovely. So many people. We had more than 120 people. Rahul, how many people joined in today?
112, sir.
Wow.
Wow, that's great.
Yes. So thank you so much, guys.
And
Stay
more and
blessed
more
and be
people will
happy.
come in for sure. As we
Yeah.
spread the word, there'll be more people joining in.
Yes,
Everyone
ma'am.
wants
Just
to contribute in their own little way to the, sustainable development.
a beginning we made. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Good night. Good
Good
night.
Stay
night.
blessed.
Thank
Be
you so
happy.
much.
Bye,
Thank
bye,
you.
bye, bye,
Night,
bye.
everyone.
Where is Shalini hiding? Shalini Chawla. Where is she? I could see her name. She's
They must have exit out, sir. Now there are about 35 people.
I know. Just saw her face. Chalo, guys, see you. Dr. Meenu, thank you so much. Dr. Meenu Agarwal and Dr. Meenu Vashish, both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Be
Good
happy.
night,
Bye,
everyone.
bye,
Thank you.
bye, bye, bye.
Bye.
Take care.